At right around 11 a.m. on a crisp March morning, a group of friends and I spent the day chasing multiple trains across northern Illinois. We started here in Hinckley, Illinois, along BNSF's former Burlington Northern Aurora subdivision. Coming into frame is train RHI 476-1 29I with the Santa Fe Bluebonnet SD40 leading. .476 is a turn job that is based out of Rochelle, Illinois. It runs from Rochelle to either Oregon, Illinois or Ayola Yard, just east of Aurora. The sand cars you see up at the front of the train are picked up in Oregon at the interchange with the Illinois Railway, while the other manifest traffic comes from Rochelle, being switched out by the Burlington Junction Railway. After Hinckley, we moved about 15 minutes north to Maple Park on the UP Geneva subdivision, formerly Chicago Northwestern. In hopes of seeing lots of traffic on this busy main line, we were granted with only one train after waiting for 2.5 hours. That train happened to be MNPAH, passing at about 1:30 p.m. with a UP ES44AC in the lead of a couple trailing NS units. This manifest train originates at UP's Bailey Yard in North Platte, Nebraska. It takes the Geneva subdivision all the way from Clinton, Iowa to Kedzie, Illinois, where it hops on the UP Rockwell subdivision to make its way down to Ashland Avenue Yard in Chicago. About 10 minutes afterwards, UP 5979 takes the lead of LPJ05, a local that runs from West Chicago to DeKalb on the Geneva sub, then from DeKalb to Troy Grove on UP's Troy Grove subdivision, which we'll cover a little bit later. The local runs with an AC 4400 CW running longhead forward due to UP 1038 not having the adequate C&W cab signals equipped that is needed for operations on the Geneva subdivision. Seen here is the local running around the curve in DeKalb, Illinois. This curve is the beginning of the UP Troy Grove subdivision. In the background is a C&W steam era coal tower still guarding the double main tracks that used to feature steam engines running down them. 5979 slowly rounds the curve to clear its train of the small 3-track yard in DeKalb. This is a weird maneuver that the train has to make in order to take off the AC-44 and put 1038 in the lead. This switching move makes it easier for the crew to switch out the sand plant in Troy Grove with the GP60 because certain tracks can't handle big 6-axle locomotives. The big 3-bay hoppers near the front of the train look a bit out of place compared to the other 2-bay sand hoppers. This is because LPJ05 doesn't just go to Troy Grove, it works towns like Earlville and Triumph along the way, which both feature grain elevators. With wind gusts getting up to the 30 and 40 miles per hour range, capturing video was starting to become a struggle. I thought I had a pretty heavy tripod, but it was a tough match, nearly falling over a couple times. Why don't we cover a little history about the Troy Grove sub while we wait? The first portion of the line was constructed in 1884 to 1885 by the Northern Illinois Railroad to connect the coal fields of Spring Valley to the towns of the north, primarily Belvidere, but a couple other towns along the way, such as Sycamore and DeKalb. Here is a picture of their yard in Spring Valley as well as a coal mine. The first NIRR train ran on November 25, 1885, that being a coal train from Spring Valley to Belvidere. The Northern Illinois Railroad continued to run on for 3 more years, running 2 passenger trains and 4 freight trains a day. In 1888, C&W purchased the railroad and merged it into their system. There are not very many pictures of this line in the steam era, the only few known shots being a picture of a C&W train going over Indian Creek in Shabana, a C&W train preparing to depart Belvidere for Spring Valley, and a C&W train going through downtown Sycamore. Afterwards, the portion of track from DeKalb to Belvidere was abandoned in 1924, and the portion from Spring Valley to Troy Grove was abandoned as well, but is believed to have survived into the diesel era. C&W continued to serve the line regularly in the same fashion that UP does now up until 1995. When UP took over operations, they have ran the local to Troy Grove ever since. Now that I'm done ranting about the history, it's time to get back to the chase. UP 1038 is now tied onto the front of the train with 5979 on the rear and is ready to go. The next stop is Elva. In Elva, a township just south of DeKalb, Mother Nature is truly showing its strength with these winds as I tried to capture footage of the depot, now repurposed for a farm building. The only known photo is this photo captured on September 20th of 1947, presumably dating back to the NIRR days or early C&W days. .1038 finally comes into view after waiting in the cold wind for about 15 minutes. It is struggling to get up the grade here in Elva. The winds are so strong that you can't even hear the horn from the second crossing down. A couple small towns south of Elva. We are just south of McGurr, Illinois, and just east of Shabana. LPJ-05 has to slow down here in order to call the dispatcher on BNSF's Aurora sub so they can get permission over the BX Diamond. In a little bit, that faint K3LA you'll hear is a Dash 9 in the lead of an intermodal crossing the Diamond on the Aurora sub right now. Off in the distance, LPJ waits for a signal across the diamond in Earlville with BNSF's Mendota subdivision. We shot the train in between Earlville and BX at Rollo, but unfortunately my footage was never saved. To the right is the grain elevator that the local will drop a 3-bay hopper off at, and to the left is the Mendota subdivision, featuring the signals that guard the diamond. 1038 is going to wait for a Cicero to Galesburg manifest along with Amtrak number 3 before it can get going. Now coming into view is train HCHC Gal 1 29A with 7 units up front, one being a Heritage 1 SD40-2. 1842 was a Neola local unit for months, but is now getting sent back to Galesburg for what I presume is a 92-day inspection. CHC Gal is an as-needed manifest that runs from Clyde Yard in Cicero, Illinois, and has a cut of cars from Western Avenue Yard in Chicago. It works yards such as Ayola and Mendota along the way to Galesburg, and usually doesn't get in until a day later, due to Galesburg being packed all the time and its low priority. Now crossing the Earlville Diamond is Amtrak number 3, the Southwest Chief, with 2 P-42 DCs in the lead. After waiting for about 30 minutes, LPJ-05 crosses the diamond and comes to a stop so they can begin their work. The local now shoves a 3-bay hopper into the elevator spur. They would then drop it off and continue the journey south. We decided to cut off the chase here in the interest of time, but the day was not over yet. Near the end of the day, I made a quick stop in Naperville because a few trains were coming. The first one was a Q-LAC NSA 6 26M, taking the Mendota suburb to Aurora, then BNSF's racetrack into Chicago, where it would terminate at NS Ashland Avenue Yard. Afterwards came train RHI 458-1 29I with a pair of BNSF Heritage 3 GEVOs. This local is a yard transfer from Ayola Yard to Western Avenue Yard, running typically as needed. Afterwards came my last train of the day, a Q STP CHC 129A. I want to say a quick thank you to you guys for watching. This was my first attempt at a narrated video and I feel like I did well, but criticism is welcome if any of you guys have any suggestions on how I can improve my future videos. I'll finish the video out with a slideshow of pictures I took that day, and to repeat myself, thanks for watching.